Welcome to the Bionicle Inspiration Series, the show where we spotlight Bionicle mocks from across the community to give you some ideas for your future builds yourself. In this episode, we're going to be talking about nice part usages, or NPU, as you can also refer to it. And we're going to take a look at 4 different mocks here that some of them use, 1 or 2 nice part usages, others use quite a lot. And I think it's certainly worth talking about because that's I actually asked for some help to get some of the mocks in this episode from some other people, just if they knew of anything or if they had any mocks of their own. And I was talking to some of those people, and they were like, I think nowadays a lot of Bionicle builds, it's a lot more common to see really nice part usages in them because, hey, construction as a theme doesn't exist anymore and people have to make do with what we've got, and it can actually be a really good sort of, impetus to continue creativity because you have to work under more sort of limited pieces in that sense. There's not actively new ones being made. Obviously, newer system pieces are being made and you can use those, I suppose. But, those limitations can be very helpful. So it's interesting to note that it's certainly a little bit more common these days in Bionicle mocks. And it's really nice because, hey, it's always cool to look at a piece and go, oh, wow, they used that for this purpose, So let's start looking at some of those examples of how people have used those pieces for those purposes. Let's begin with the very first mock by Ari, Mr. Buttloaf Builds. And this is the Bloodsmith. So let's just start diving into all of the pieces here. So obviously you can note that this mock is on this sort of beautiful base. And I actually saw this mock in person at Brick Fair, so I'll do a whole separate video about this mock, really going into detail about some of the techniques on this. But for now, we'll just talk about the nice part usages. What I love about this base is the fact that it's almost like a stage. I don't know, there's kind of this presence to this character that seems very sort of flamboyant or almost like a Disney villain or something. And I always talk about how bases can really add a lot of personality to the character. And I feel like this is almost like them strutting onto like a stage or like a catwalk or something. So it's interesting how the base is almost sort of like adding personality to the character in that sense. I think it's cool. We can see a elephant body piece here on the bottom there, just sort of in the corner here. It's being used as sort of like almost like a valve or sort of like a part of a pipe or something, and Ari's put the wheel over the top of it. It's a clever little part use there, and sort of when it's integrated into everything else, it just looks like more sorts of parts of like a factory or some sort of machine or piping or something like that, like I said. And in general, I think this whole base really kind of benefits from that because it is just this sort of large kind of cluster of different pieces that together give it this beautiful like mechanical kind of factory-like feeling. Like for example, you can see on both sides here there are these 2 Paraka canister pieces being used. Now those canister pieces are always really cool. If you do have sealed Bionicle sets, so you still have some of the boxes lying around, you can pretty often use them in mocks to pretty decent results, So it's nice to see them being integrated here and adding even more sort of mechanical details. Another interesting part use, you can kind of just see it towards the back there. And then here's a picture of Ari just holding it up on its own. There is a sort of clear, like sort of half canister thing. So these came on some of the old Bionicle pens. And this is sort of like, again, the canister box that they came in. And it's sort of the lid in that sense. So it's cool to see that there, and I don't know, this sort of serves as like, I guess just like a big tank of blood. This mock was called the Blood Master. And I find it interesting because I think this whole base really emphasizes the fact that there is, blood, or that this character is related to blood. When you actually look at the mock itself, other than the fact that it's red, and I guess maybe the way that the fingers sort of like drip almost, or kind of look like long elongated nails or something, you could maybe argue that looks sort of blood-like. But otherwise, there's not really much that communicates blood that isn't on the stand. So I love the idea of maybe you have a concept for like an elemental power or something on the character, but you can't really put it on the character. Maybe you're just struggling with that. Or maybe you could build a base underneath it that sort of emphasizes the element or the sort of idea of the character and actually brings it out even more. Because I think if you put this on its own, yeah, maybe it would be looking somewhat blood-like, but it also might just be like, oh, it's just a cool like character, like whatever, So it's interesting how much the base is adding to it. I really, really like that. So yeah, cool canister piece there being used. I mentioned the fingers before, so that is a crowbar minifigure accessory piece. Great idea to use those as fingers. There's something very kind of flamboyant and unique about that finger design that, I don't know, I can't say I've seen that before used for fingers, but it works super well. We also have some more kind of blood details. If you look at sort of one of the pipes near those sort of blue tubes towards the end there's sort of a bit of flowing blood. It's using just some typical system pieces. But then the bottom of that is the tail on this Ninjago minifigure here. You see similar tails on like some Medusa minifigures and other kind of like snake characters. And it's beautiful to see it there because it really does look like blood that's just sort of flowing out. I think that's just such a cool part use there. It's really, really unique. Another part use we can see is Pahatu Nuva's mask. So if we look at sort of the tallest canister here with the dripping blood coming down from it, which in itself is a nice part use, by the way, using some of those aerial pieces from different Lego sets and things, so it looks like kind of dripping blood and stuff like that. Really, really cool. I think another crowbar's being used there too, so very clever. But inside that canister is actually a Pahatu Nuva mask, and I don't know, it kind of just looks like almost, I guess, bubbling blood or something like that. It's very unique and very cool. A lot of those older Nuva masks, and just in general, a lot of the older Bionicle masks always had that really nice, I don't know, the fact that there were kind of just a lot of connection points in them. So it was very easy to kind of have pieces sticking out of it and stuff like that. So it's perfect in this sense to use it as some sort of detail where you can add more to the MOC. So nice to see masks not being used as actual masks and as sort of like detail accessory things. On the torso of the character as well, we can see some of these scare pieces being used as, I don't know, sort of like armor or a chest plate or something. And the way the tubes sort of flow through the natural gaps in it, I think is really cool as well. So yeah, a really unique piece. Those came from, I think those originally came from a Harry Potter castle, one of the older Hogwarts sets. But they've appeared in other sets recently in other different colors and things like that. So it's a more unique piece, and especially the fact you can kind of disassemble the stair and give it, turn it into those sort of kind of triangular pieces with the circle on the end there. It's a really nice technique. So yeah, it works really well as sort of armor of sorts. They're really, really cool. So that's all the different kind of part usages here on a fantastic MOC by Ari. Let's move over now to the next MOC. This is by Max Howell, and this is General Asrepor. So one specific nice part use that I wanted to talk about on this one here is the Boba Fett helmet being used as sort of like a little chubby gut. So it even says on the description here, this is a decorated general of the Manasi Galactic Militia. He loves junk food. So he's deliberately made a sort of bigger set character in this sense. And using the Boba Fett helmet like that and sort of wrapping a tire around it to hide some of the details works really well. So yeah, I think that's really clever to do that. And also a lot more difficult to use some of those Star Wars CCBS heads sometimes because, it's very noticeably Boba Fett's helmet. It's hard to put it in a MOC and you not see that. So it's a clever idea to kind of wrap it with other pieces to hide some of those really noticeable details and then flip it on its side like this and just use the top so that you can turn it into something completely different. It's really cool. Some other really just kind of nice points on this MOC here. I love the medals on the side of his sort of shoulder or chest or whatever. Just a very simple but very clever design, and certainly gets the point across that he's an army man. I love his mustache, just because mustaches very often make MOCs look cooler, so that's a very fun detail. And the two different colored eyes is a bit of fun. Could have had them be the same color, but I like the fact that they're different. Maybe one of them's sort of like damage to the eye. Maybe that's what happens with this alien race. The eye turns a different color if it's been injured or something. I don't know, but hey, it's a cool idea. I also love the asymmetrical design here. The fact that he's got like a robotic arm kind of gives him a bit of story. Maybe he lost that fighting or something. It's just a cool idea. And that finger design also looks really nice too, using the little minifigure hand pieces there as sort of little small claws of sorts. It's a very nice design. So that is that MOC. Let's move over to the next one. This is by Brickelson, Mr. Brick Brickelson. And this is called Unlucky 7 League Boots. I adore this. This MOC has so much just life and personality to it, and it's great to see this really nice edited background as well. Obviously not Lego at all, just a fun background that he's either made himself or found online, I don't know. But it looks really cool, and it just adds a bit more context to the build. It looks lovely. Let's just talk now a bit about the different part usages in this, shall we? So right off the bat, we can see Tahu's mask in brown being used as sort of like a little belly. It's interesting because it kind of looks like just sort of the natural rivet at the top of the helmet. It kind of looks a bit like a belly button of sorts. I don't know. It's just clever, just the way it's sort of poking through the shirt like that. Yeah, it's nice. I like the idea that, as he's slipping, maybe his shirt is sort of just riding up a little bit and you can see his belly. So it's also adding a bit of personality to the character. It's fun and just a very clever part use there. And I don't know, one that's a bit harder to see, I guess. It kind of blends in with the rest of the mock. Another nice part use is the use of some of these different Krana pieces in yellow and using them as like knee pads and shoulder pads and stuff like that. Or not shoulder pads, elbow pads, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, it's fun. It's just a nice way of using them and attaching them with rubber bands. There's a very simple technique there. Obviously not. Well, I don't think they're physically attached. Maybe that's just there to add a bit of. I don't know, maybe just to look like an actual band like you would have on knee pads and stuff like that. Maybe that isn't actually how it's attached. I don't know. But regardless, Krana there works very, very nicely. Another nice part use is the use of some of these dots bracelet pieces. So there's two of them here. We can see one on his bag, and it's sort of like a bag strap in that sense. And I like that he's got the little sort of like pins and stuff there, like people often do on their bag straps and stuff like that. So that's a fun detail. And then he's got another dots sort of bracelet piece there used as the belt, which we can also see sort of wrapped around near the mask that I was just pointing out before. So very nice to see those dots pieces used in action there. They work very, very nicely. Some other nice part usages on this mock here. We can see a slicer headpiece being used to form sort of, I guess, sort of the nose of his monkey face there. So yeah, it's a bit of fun. I like that. We also can see on the boots, these sort of rocket power boots with like flames coming out of them, a Duplo flame piece being used, which I feel like that's a little debatable if it's a nice part use. I kind of regard nice part usages as people using a piece in a way that it's certainly not intended for, but it works really well in that intended use. But, and so, he's using flames as flames, but I think it's still worth noting because, it's rarer to see people use Duplo pieces and use them so well. So it's still worth noting. So very, very nice to see that there. There's certainly a lot more. I mean, even as I look at this now, I think it's really cool how he's used some of those curved panel pieces or curved slope pieces there on the torso in dark blue to sort of form the edges of a jacket and stuff like that. Using that red Ninjago snake as like a tie of sorts, and the fact that the tie's going crazy as he's falling over, that's also very fun. And even using some of those, larger like tail pieces in white to sort of like... smoke coming out of the shoes and stuff like that. There's a lot of really nice part usages on this, but there's only so many that I was going to specifically cover, and I'm sort of noticing more now as I'm looking at the mock. Hey, definitely check this guy out. There's links in the description below to all these mocks if you want to see the other stuff they've built, because a lot of his mocks are packed full of personality and really nice part usages as well. So very, very cool indeed. So love just the beautiful sense of character behind this. It's awesome. Let's now move over to the final mock. This is by our friend Joxon, and this one here is called Gelbmesher. Sure. So a lot of nice part usages on this one, to be honest. I love the fact that he's used all of these different claw pieces that come on like Doc Ock, that come in a variety of different sets and things, but he's used so many of them to create this incredibly unique arm design here. It's so cool. It looks very posable. It looks decently lightweight. There's not much that it has to hold up. Those hands don't look like they carry a lot of weight to it. So I don't know how sturdy this is per se. I'd have to try it, but I don't know. It's just a really, really cool, really unique arm design. I don't know why I always confuse arms and hands. I know the difference, but my mind just calls them the same thing sometimes. It's strange. Also, it's very early. You can probably tell by my voice, so I apologize. But it's a nice design and a very clever part use to use so many like that and kind of spam them in that sense to create this beautiful hand design. Some other beautiful stuff that's going on with this mock. I love the inclusion of the this like Chima Speedor piece here. I believe Joxon has stripped the printing off, or maybe he somehow obtained one that didn't have any printing on it. Maybe that was just how it came in the set or something. That can happen sometimes. But he's used that piece here to sort of form a part of the sort of top of the torso here. And it looks really nice. It blends in with the rest of the sort of smoother pieces in yellow that have been used here on this. And there's just some really nice shaping to it. It just works really well. So yeah, it's blended perfectly. The face on the mock also uses one of these snowshoe pieces. It comes in this specific set. It comes in a variety of other sets in a couple other colors as well. It's a beautiful piece. Just the sort of natural, I guess, like checker pattern on it. I don't know what you'd call that, but it looks really cool. You know, it makes for a more, I don't want to say Darth Vader like face design because that seems like a cop out, but it kind of sort of is. It looks very sort of like a sci-fi mechanical robot face of sorts. I don't know. It's the perfect piece to use there. It really makes the face look that much more unique. I don't know. That's such an awesome piece to use. And it's been used very well here. So a bit more of an obscure part, I suppose, but it works well. Just talking about the mock now, I love the eyes. This sort of pop of, I believe that is coral, the color. I think it's a bit of a newer color. That is it beautifully contrasts with the yellow and the dark bluish gray there. It's perfect. It's perfect. I mean, maybe it could have worked in blue or green, but I don't know. I just really like that pop there. It's gorgeous. The hat's also very nice, and just his little blade as well is a bit of fun. And you can also see some stickers on his crotch and on his shoulder as well. Always nice to see a few stickers, just adding a little bit of extra detail onto a mock. I imagine that those are both official LEGO stickers, maybe not, I don't know. But hey, look through your LEGO stickers. Don't put them on the pieces, put them on your mocks instead, because they'll often greatly improve it, I think. And we can certainly see that here with Joxon's mock. So there we go. That was a bunch of different mocks that have some very clever part usages in them. Hopefully that gave you some ideas yourself for how you could use, different pieces as unique part usages on your own stuff. Like I said, check the links in the description to see more from these builders, and definitely go leave some comments and likes and things on their posts and let them know what you think. Also in the description below are links to my own social media, so you can check out some of the stuff that I've got going on over there. And also in the description below is links to my Patreon, so if you would like to support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month, you can have access to bonus content like weekly podcasts and Q&As and other bonus stuff, access to my private Discord server, all that sort of stuff. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. Otherwise... if you want to submit your own mocks to the show, you can through the submission email that's on your screen right now. Thank you very much for watching. Happy building, and bye for now.